We just put out guidance here for 2022, which was between 35 and 55 for EBITDA, between 140 and 180 for revenue. And, we're kind of a little bit of a delayed story in that, most people are still looking at 2022, but, with absent Arizona, Maryland, if you look at Minnesota, New York, these are really 2023 and even 2024 stories.
Kyle Kingsley joins me now. He's the CEO of Goodness Growth Holdings, Inc., trading on the CSE under the symbol GDNS. Kyle, welcome.
Thank you. How are you doing this morning?
I'm great, thanks. How are you doing? I love your t-shirt.
Thank you. Yeah, no complaints on this end.
So as a medical doctor, and considering your choice in clothing, I'm assuming that the business of Goodness Growth Holdings, Inc. has something to do with cannabis.
Yeah, spot on. We're very interested in bringing the power of plants to people, and I don't know a plant that exemplifies that better than cannabis.
Sure. Okay, so then tell me about the business of Goodness Growth.
Yeah, Goodness Growth Holdings is right now laser focused on our 5 core markets as a multi-state cannabis operator, and this is very compelling licenses, generally in limited license states. Our 5 core markets are New York, Minnesota, Maryland, Arizona, and New Mexico. And we've really just sort of doubled down our focus, both from a capital and team bandwidth standpoint, on these 5 core markets.
Sure. And what is the size of the total addressable market in those select markets?
Well, it's substantial. Market by market in New York alone, there's 20 million people. We're one of 10 vertically integrated licensees there. Obviously, it ticks down from there, 5.7 million people, probably collectively about 15 million people in the other core market states. But more important than the total addressable market, in my opinion, is the sort of the limited license nature of those states. And so, if you're one of, just comparing Minnesota and Colorado, both have about 5.7 million people. We're one of 2 licensees in Minnesota. I believe there's 700 or 800 in Colorado. And so independent of, total addressable market, the actual, souls that we're responsible for on the cannabis side are much more substantial in a setting like Minnesota.
Sure, you bet. So I noticed that brand strategy is a big part of your approach and that you actually have some very successful brands out in the marketplace. Do you market those brands to other companies?
We do. In places where we're able to wholesale, we do that. We're really starting to focus more on wholesale and predominantly in New York and Maryland. And we do have a wholesale apparatus in Arizona, which is taking off. Great Chief Marketing Officer, Harris Rabin, a gentleman who came from InBev, both big pharma and big alcohol background. And so the branding aspect is really important. Our differentiator is we like to bring products that ideally work a little bit better or bring a differentiated consumer experience, which I think is going to have more legs long term than slapping your name or slapping a brand on sort of a commoditized standard product.
Sure. So then is your focus more medical, more recreational, or are there brands that address both?
Yeah, there are brands that address both. It's really a regulatory dividing line. Most people who access cannabis across the regulatory spectrum, be it for medical market or open adult use, are accessing for reasons of wellness. And so we're really catering to giving people a great consumer experience, and whether that's to treat their cancer pain or to reduce their anxiety at night and everything in between. We're just looking to really fill that wellness niche and help people across the spectrum. I'm a fan of helping the well improve their lives rather than kind of slicing things up into these artificial differentiated categories that oftentimes are just that. They're artificial.
Sure. Then, so from your perspective, is the eventual federal deprohibition of cannabis something that you need to happen to realize your full potential, or are you able to grow on a state-by-state basis without that possibility?
Yeah, both situations are pretty good for our business. The federal dysfunction is part of our opportunity, able to get a foothold in these limited license siloed states. But we're very excited about decreasing the cost of capital, getting some banking reform. Our business is in a good position either way. We've really built ourselves. We lived through 2019. We're really building ourselves to sort of thrive independent of federal change.
Wow, that's intriguing. Okay, so tell us about your financial outlook for the next year and for the most recent year. What kind of revenue are you doing?
Yeah, we just just put out guidance here for 2022, which was between 35 and 55 for EBITDA, between 140 and 180 for revenue. And we're kind of a little bit of a delayed story in that most people are still looking at 2022. But with absent Arizona, Maryland, if you look at Minnesota, New York, these are really 2023 and even 2024 stories. So we're looking at the end of 22 for adult use go live in New York. We're in the process of building a very substantial indoor grow there, one of the largest in the state. And Minnesota actually is including flower in the medical program. That doesn't start until early next year. And so I really see Goodness Growth as we'll have a great 2022, but we're 2023 and 2024 are going to be even more substantial for us.
Sure. It's intriguing to me when I hear about newer cannabis companies, but I've realized that they're not necessarily newer. It's just that I haven't been able to keep up with the full gamut of companies coming to the market. How did Goodness Growth get started?
Yeah, this was all the way back in 2014. So this has been my nearly full-time job all the way back 7 years now. And it really was, me and our co-founder, attorney here in Minneapolis named Ross Hussey. We put our heads together. We had some scientific and medical connections. We then partnered with, labor and really worked hard to put together the best application that had been seen to date. And we got one of only 2 licenses in 2014. Here in the state of Minnesota. A few months later, we got one of 5 in New York, again, with a focus on just really the medical/scientific approach. At the time, it wasn't a professionalized industry, and we were just looking to insert professionalism, and that was very differentiating. Fortunately, now there's a lot of very professional organizations in the space.
Yeah, you bet. So you're not in California, though, which is arguably the largest market. I guess not really arguably. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, I mean, kind of too little, too late for us to jump into California at this stage. The relative upside that we'd have there would be small. Again, nearly limitless licenses. I understand it's fragmented based on the municipalities, but we're much more interested in these limited license states. Again, one of 10 vertically integrated licenses in a state of 20 million people versus one of thousands of licensees in a massive state like California. Eventually, you have to play there, but for us, that's a few years out. We're really focusing on these core markets.
Right. And it's interesting to me that you are actually in the retail space, you're in the brand space, you are operating dispensaries as well as grow ops. So that's what rather a well-integrated cannabis story that most companies can't sort of lay claim to. How is it that you have expertise in all of those areas?
By law, we actually had to learn that. And so it was excruciating to start. We had to be vertically integrated. We couldn't even outsource security in both Minnesota and New York. And so we built that ourselves. Again, this was starting 7 years ago. And so we had no choice but to develop that. Home delivery we do ourselves in New York with our own kind of back end and systems. And we had no choice, just being honest. Very nice to be there now. We have a lot of flexibility. It seems unlikely long term that you're going to be vertically integrated indefinitely. I'm talking 5-10 years out, but it definitely gives you a lot of options here at this early stage in the game in these limited license markets. So vertical integration was a curse initially, is now a blessing for us.
Wow. So then, if there were to be interstate commerce permitted in the cannabis space, would that be greater an opportunity for you guys, or would it represent a threat to the opportunities that dysfunctionality across the federal realm presents?
Yeah, it's both. And I think it's a long ways out for that actually happening from a practical standpoint. States are heavily incentivized to keep these job producers, these revenue producers at home and not import from other states. We've taken a balanced approach. We really are looking to have one very substantial facility in each region. We've also taken an approach where we have grow facilities in very low cost production areas like Arizona, where we actually are on the cusp of having 20 acres operational there. We have licenses in places like Puerto Rico that become very interesting tools in sort of interstate commerce world. I believe personally that that's 5 years plus out. even with federal change sooner than that. It's just the states are so heavily incentivized to keep these jobs and businesses home. So we're comfortable either way. I'm most comfortable with what I see as the likely timelines is that you're 3 to 5 years out with the interstate commerce stuff. But we're again looking into the future and ready for either eventuality.
Sure. So tell me about the aspect of the future for your business that excites you most.
Yeah, the multi-state operator, there's very few businesses that have the magnitude of upside we have just on the regulatory tailwind side. New Mexico, New York, and Arizona have all gone adult use or will go in the next 12 months. Minnesota's adding flower, and Maryland could as early as next year go adult use. And so 4 of our 5 core markets are going adult use, 1 adding flower. But one kind of sleeper that we have is our IP company, Resurgent Biosciences, which is laser focused on developing IP that's monetizable, short or long term, in the cannabis space and beyond. And that's pretty interesting as far as a very cost effective value builder. Long term, for goodness growth is this IP company, Resurgent Biosciences.
Huh. Sounds exciting, Kyle. We're going to leave it there for now. That's a great update on the company, and I will be following with interest. We'll have you back soon. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you much. Thanks for your time.
We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.